Hello, this is Lawrence Lewis.
And this is Sister Christian.
Today is Monday, April 27th, 2020. This is the Producers Happy Hour, a daily podcast with two producers on opposite coasts, reaching out to our filmmaking and live event community to hear your stories about how the pandemic has affected you, your life, and your work.
Your stories let us know that we're not alone. It's important for us to keep sharing our experience and ideas. I know the stories help Lawrence and I. I know that they're helping some of you. So please, we love hearing them.
Email us, or better yet, record a 1 to 2 minute voice memo and send it to producershappyhour@gmail.com, or just follow the instructions on our website, producershappyhour.com.
And please share this show with your friends, colleagues, your college professor, your RA maybe, or your second cousin who joined the military. These are human stories. We want these stories to be heard. Again, they help us. We know that they're helping you guys, and it doesn't matter who you are, you're human.
As we know, as producers, storytelling helps people come closer. It connects people. Also, rate the shows. It helps the algorithms.
Like us.
Like us. Christian, today we're chatting with, we have a great interview, actually, we did with an amazing director named Don Broida.
I know.
And he shined his
little flashlight on us.
Hope ray gun on us and made us all
It was so good. And I was very excited that it airs today because it's Monday and starting, I've counted, I think that we're walking into week 7, if I'm not mistaken. And hope. We all can use a little hope right now.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. So, Lawrence,
Definitely.
You're back in LA that I see.
Yes, I am.
How was your couple days apart? Oh, I'm sorry, a couple days apart from each other.
Right. Sorry.
Your work wife. Go on.
My work wife, yes. It was lovely. We had a great weekend here in Los Feliz.
Mm-hmm.
Did a lot of walking. We actually did this amazing walk downtown. I'm going to send you the photos, Christian.
Okay.
Last night around the Music Center and the DWP building and Upper Grand by Mocha, down by the library and kind of all around that area. And a little bit of Pershing Square. We just did some classic LA sightseeing, and it was lovely. And we had the most amazing sunset last night. And it was so
take a look
gorgeous.
At that. I bet it was gorgeous. Were there a lot of people out? Were there masks? Give me the vibe.
There were masks. There's a lot of people, not a lot, relatively speaking, but people are out. People are walking their dogs, a lot of masks, a few people not doing the mask thing. But
there's always a few.
There's always a few.
There's always a few of those assholes.
There was a ton of, Upper Grand. I don't know if you've ever shot on it, but that's where every car commercial I've, ever done, Upper Grand.
I recognize it in every.
It's got one of those beautiful views of LA, and there was no traffic, so people had pulled out their cars perpendicular to the traffic and getting photos of it, it was like people were just on the street. There were skateboarders going down Upper Grand, and it was like a fun Sunday out and about.
That sounds really cool.
It was a little lawless. But it was like, you know what?
That's the best time.
We're fucking in week 6. Go ahead. Go skate down. Make the cars on Upper Grand go around you as you skate down the middle of it. That's fine.
Yeah. And I just heard Governor Cuomo had suggested that, de Blasio, mayor, shut down a bunch of streets so people could have places to go and hang.
Yeah.
And I believe that that's finally going to happen because I just heard from the best governor in the whole wide world that he's planning on extending past May 15th for New York City.
Really? Okay. I mean, not surprised.
I'm not surprised either. What did surprise me, though, and I know that there were a bunch of statistics thrown up on the screen this morning, and I was, I cut it short to get to the studio.
Yeah.
And I did see a few statistics, though, that I wanted to chat about, because I know that there's some hang-ups about money.
Yes.
Yeah. And stuff. And it turns out that the New York State is the number 1 state that gives money to the federal government. We give the most.
Yep.
Yep.
And you take less than you give.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Feds. Yeah.
Yeah. Turns out that Kentucky is the 3rd highest taker.
Oh, wow. Interesting.
Yeah. So there's your bailout, everybody. Yeah. It's not the time to be squabbling over money. Okay. I mean, we have money is whatever. I mean, I understand that it has value, but in the end, it's paper, right? And so we've built this whole structured system over, what things are worth. to people. And I just think that right now is not the time to, nobody is working. Nobody is earning a wage. But that's the reason why people in the states that are opening up are going back to work, because they've not received their unemployment or their stimulus or PPEP or any of that stuff. And they've been sitting at home for 6 weeks and they need the money.
Yeah.
Kind of at their wits' end right now. So
here's something that Christian, you and I talked about over the weekend, and I want to put it out there because I have the same concerns you do about going back to work. A couple things. One, I want us to start doing crew safety roundtables.
I know. I think this is an amazing idea.
And so this is an open call to everybody out there who wants to take part. We're producers. We're the facilitators of set operations. And we need to hear from crew what they need to see or have on set, or what protocols they want to have on set in order for them to feel safe enough to come back to work.
We've been getting guidelines from different countries and different production companies on what, we as freelance people are going to be required to implement. Us having a say and the crew having a say in what they feel comfortable with moving forward, I think is important.
It's really, really important. And production companies and countries are just coming up with a plan, but I haven't heard anybody actually asking crew what they feel comfortable doing. So I want to do a series of them. We'll get 3 people on each episode, so that way not everyone's talking over each other. 3 people from each department, preferably not teams, different people that don't work with each other. So that
I think that's the brilliant idea. Obviously they would work in tandem if they met.
Yeah, if they're a team, they are all going to have the same opinion or agree mostly on what's right. So getting different teams together that don't know each other, haven't worked together, I think will foster a lot more conversation and creativity and could be good. So if anybody out there wants to be a part of this, reach out to us, producershappyhour@gmail.com. If you're a sound guy, if you're a PA, if you're a craft service person, we want to get you onto a roundtable and talk about the safety measures that you need to see on set for you to feel safe enough to come back to work.
Yeah. And I do think that it's important that we hear from crew members and also PAs because, let's face it, who's enforcing the actual guidelines, right?
Exactly.
That's us. And whatever the guidelines wind up being, we have staff on to put them in place. So we need to hear from everybody. So, Lawrence, the CDC put out a list of 6 additional symptoms that you may experience if you have COVID. Yep. And here they are: chills, repeated shaking with chills, muscle pain, headache, sore throat, and new loss of taste or smell. Now, the fact that the CDC is just now recognizing taste or smell, swear everybody's been talking about losing taste or smell up until this point. So, of course, that's true. We keep finding out new things each day. Again, 4 to 5 months of understanding this virus is, under their belts at this point. And what concerns me is a little bit is headache and muscle pain. Now, and I say that because I understand that part of the guidelines coming back may be taking people's temperature.
Right.
Which I think is a little bit of a, barn door's been left open and all the horses are out. Because by the time that you have the fever, you have been contagious for 3 to 5 days.
Right. Yeah, I've always kind of questioned that.
So if you're on a 4-day shoot, and I get it, people are getting their temperature taken all over, and that's a sign, whatever. It's the sign that you can have without testing. That said, if you have a crew member come to work on day 3 and they have a temperature, then what? I just think that there's so much to think about. And it concerns me. I do want to share that my doctor here in Brooklyn received a supply of the Abbott antibody tests.
Really?
Yes. And I was able to schedule an appointment to get tested for tomorrow at 2:45 Tuesday.
Wow.
I know. So I'm excited, not in a we're going to Six Flags kind of way, but but I'm excited just because I'm happy. I'm going to go. I'm going to do it. We're going to see what happens. We'll be done. Governor Cuomo today said that 7,500 of the people who were tested had antibodies, which in turn means 15% of the people tested, which is a pretty low number.
Yeah.
right? And I'm going to dig into that a little bit more, guys, because I just got that information as we were coming on here. But that just seems to me like a pretty low number. So again, I'm nervous about work opening up and gathering with people. I just am.
Yeah. I mean, rightfully so.
And how 30 and 40-year-old people are dying from strokes.
Yes.
And they don't know how or why.
Some sort of
and
blood clotting that's happening.
Yep.
Yeah.
And it's random.
Going back to work is a bit scary. And I do want to talk about some guidelines that Variety mentioned. But before that, two little lighthearted things.
Okay. I'm ready.
Did you see, I put this link in here for this new commercial by Uber. And it's called Thank You for Not Riding Uber. I don't know if you guys seen it. It's pretty nice, I have to say. Out of all the stuff we've been seeing, all this like user-generated content, shot on iPhone, montagey kind of stuff. This one's pretty sweet because I think the moments they captured, you can kind of relate to each of these moments. Even if it's just a woman standing looking out the door, it's pretty sweet. So, hats off to Uber, and it looks like it was made safely. We'll put that in the show notes. If you haven't seen it, just Google it. Thank you for not riding Uber. It's pretty nice.
I saw this on, I believe it was during SNL we were watching, and we were trying to guess because all the ads were the same, who the ad was for.
Oh, yeah.
And I didn't choose Uber. It was great.
Yeah, that's a good one. The other good news before I get into the Variety article is that Musso and Frank's, big classic staple restaurant here in Los Angeles, always filled with Hollywood elite and all that kind of stuff. They have been keeping 84 employees on payroll.
That's a lot.
As the restaurant took a 6-figure loss. But they've been keeping those men and women on their payroll.
I love that.
It's just like so touching and also scary. And I hope they can make it through this. Because it's the kind of restaurant that has those real servers, those career servers that just know how to get everything done so perfectly. And it's a treat to go there and be served by them.
Yes.
So I'm happy to hear that they're keeping them on the payroll.
That's great.
Now, this Variety document was put together by Brian Kavanaugh Jones and Chris Ferguson. They're from companies called Automatic and Oddfellows. And they put a proposal together called Isolation-Based Production Plan. And this is long form, so it's talking TV and features. But what they're suggesting is that at the start of production, people go into quarantine. And if it's like a distant location, they would take over a hotel.
Right.
That would be aggressively cleaned. No other people can be on that floor. They took over a floor at least, right? So they'd all go into quarantine for 2 weeks before they even start production. Even maybe prep. Maybe they can prep during quarantine. I don't know. But they go into quarantine. And then they split into pods. So pod 1 is the on-set cast and crew. Pod 2 is the base camp. And pod 3 is like set design, rigging, prep, that kind of thing. And it's a way to kind of keep minimal contact between the pods, but you still have enough labor there to do what you need to do. We'll put the link to the article from Variety into the show notes so you guys can read it. I'm sure everyone's seeing it. We'll post it in the Facebook group. But it's interesting, and I think it inspired me more and more to do our crew safety roundtables, just listening to it, because there isn't any crew voice in there. It's just producers talking.
Right. And that's what scares me too. I mean, I've worked at every company and I understand each one of them runs differently, but in the end, we always had this structure that we would go by, right? And it was usually union based, but also too, in the last 10 years, working a lot of non-union jobs, we have these things that we implement, and this is all new.
Yeah.
Today, I guess my word of the day, my feeling of the day is scared.
Yeah.
Because it's unknown what's coming down the pipe.
Yeah. I think I'm right there with you. It's on your shoulders to be the ambassador of safety. It's big implications on the job, right? And if the job's not designed the right way for us to activate the proper safety measures, it's going to be a challenge.
I do think so. Yeah. And I guess I'm really nervous too about the understanding that I'm hoping everybody has. Yeah. But in the end, I'm just not sure if they're going to.
Yeah.
So here we are.
So, Christian, should we get on with our interview?
Yes.
Okay. Before that, go to our website, producershappyhour.com. On that page is a page called Take Action.
We have a lot of different causes that we've posted petitions for and links to. The no rent, donate blood, post office. Most important thing I think we could have now.
Save the post office, yes.
Exactly. And several other things. Feed the freelancers. There's so much there. And I would love you guys to go take a visit and see what you can do.
Yep. And also we have the cocktails page, which features videos from a local bar here in Silver Lake.
And soon to feature Milo's Yard, which is in Queens, New York.
All right, Christian, let's get on with the interview. Don Broida began his filmmaking career as a teenager, creating surf videos with his family's camcorder. He studied at University of Southern California and Cal State Northridge and followed his filmmaking passion into feature film editorial, where he built a successful career with credits such as Jason Moore's Pitch Perfect, which, I mean, come on, who doesn't love that movie? Brett Ratner's X-Men The Last Stand, and Howard Gordon's FX series Tyrant.
I mean, I know all the words to Pitch Perfect 1, 2, and 3. So this extensive editorial background gave Don a deep understanding of story, character, tone, and emotion, which helped make his transition to directing a seamless one. Don's work is recognized for celebrating the beauty of people and of life itself. His attention to detail and story have made him a sought-after director in the commercial world, and he has directed campaigns for such clients as P&G, Unilever, Fidelity Investments, and Chevrolet.
Let's take a listen.
Thank you so much for joining us today, Don. First, we'd love to check in, see how you're doing, how your family's doing. Where are you at? Are you in LA, New York?
I'm in Los Angeles.
Somewhere else? Okay.
Yeah, no, I'm in Los Angeles, specifically Studio City. We're all doing great. Well, other than my grandmother's dying today, but that has nothing to do with COVID.
Oh.
That just happens to be, she's old.
So sorry.
I'm sorry. She's old. That's what I was reacting to. Sorry.
She's old. Yeah,
So
it's her time.
I'm sorry.
Yeah.
We believe we all actually, if you want to go down the route of COVID, we believe we all had it already. My brother's a firefighter in Santa Clara, specifically San Jose. His whole department got it very early on in mid-February. He visited me in the middle of it, and then we believe we all got it.
Really?
We were able to get tested. His girlfriend tested positive. His other members of the fire department tested positive. He didn't get tested until much later, in which then he was negative. So we kind of have a little bit different of a outlook because we're not necessarily overly scared of catching it because we probably, like a lot of people, already actually have it.
I mean, testing is so key right now because yesterday it was discovered that they feel the first person who died from it is actually February 6th instead of the end of February. So running rampant through, California is what.
Yeah. What kind of symptoms did you have, if you don't mind sharing?
Yeah.
Well, and I can give you the timeline. So my brother went to
the timelines. Hold on.
Yeah, my brother went to a firefighter's banquet on the 22nd, had direct contact with the guy that they believe gave it to him. They were tracked by the CDC.
22nd of February?
Yeah, 22nd of February. Okay. Exactly. Okay. He then visited me on the 24th or 25th. And then on the 27th, I came down with a mild fever, a dry cough, headache, and I was out for about 4 days. My fever always stayed right around 100, and that was it. And I was tired. It felt a little bit different than the normal flu, just that my fever never really spiked and that it was longer.
Oh, yeah.
And that I was in bed, and then got up and I was fine.
Did you have any of the night sweats?
Not really. I don't know. I don't think it was that far out of the normal flu. It actually felt better than the normal flu to me. For me, normally when I get the flu, my temperature goes up to 102. I feel absolutely awful for about a day or two, and then it goes away for me. It just kind of sat at 100 for 4 days. So it was longer, but not as bad.
Intense.
Wow.
Right.
Wow.
I don't know. I was never tested positive, and I haven't been tested if I had it or not. We're just saying that
because the timeline makes sense and the symptoms make sense, right?
And if you didn't need a hospital, you weren't supposed to go. So unless you're really bad, we're still not getting tested.
Yeah.
And my wife then kind of got it after me. She got it differently. She then tried to get tested. She told them the direct timeline that people around us were tested positive, and they didn't care. They just said, they said, unless you have had it for over 2 weeks or you're over 50 or 60, I think it was 60. They didn't want you to come in.
Wow, that's wild. Well, I'm glad you are all healthy now again.
Yeah,
good.
We're great.
Good. So let's continue with that timeline, because I'd love to know what was happening in your life and in your work up until the pandemic kind of shut everything down. Were you working? Did you have projects? Were you just recovering?
No, it was actually, well, starting prior to that, if you want to get into the projects, we have been really busy. I came from features. I was a feature editor, and I switched to commercial directing about 10 years ago. I also write. So I've written about 8 or 9 features, developed a number of them. Nothing has been produced yet. This year was going great in commercials. Started off, last year was fantastic. Yeah. The beginning of this year was great. I had 3 projects lined up. One for Poland Springs Water, which we were supposed to shoot in Mexico City at the beginning of February or mid-February, I think it was. That they pulled out 3 days before my flight.
Oh, wow.
Because of this, it was, the brand was connected to Nestle. Nestle had a no-fly order, and, you know, it all died. After that, I think that I had a project overseas in South Africa. So I went to South Africa maybe March 9th, I believe.
Oh, wow. Really?
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
It's pretty late.
And was it in your consciousness at the moment? Were you worried, or?
You've already been sick, right?
I was not worried about getting sick. I've been through a decent amount that I wasn't worried about getting sick. Okay. And I've traveled so much that I wasn't really worried about getting stuck. My flight I flew from LA to Detroit to Paris, and then Paris to Cape Town. My flight from LA, and this was, I think, on March 9th, LA to Detroit was packed. And then my flight Detroit to Paris was empty.
Wow.
Yeah, it was very, very empty. And then I came back on the 13th. We didn't end up shooting. I was shooting with a team
that Friday.
Yeah, it was like after Trump's, we're not letting people in from the
Europe.
I think anywhere. Yeah, Europe specifically. Europe,
yeah.
Yeah, and the people that I was working with were based out of Morocco and based out of Paris. And the people specifically in Morocco kind of got very nervous, and they were worried they wouldn't be able to get back into their country. And so they called the whole thing off, and they called it off at 5 p.m. At midnight, I was flying out.
Wow.
I had a flight incredibly fast.
That's amazing.
Since then, what is your board flow? Have you been chatting with clients? Has people been reaching out to see what you can do?
Yeah. You know, like I said, I got back on the 13th. There was another project that we had after that got canceled.
Right. So you had 3 canceled jobs, basically.
3 in a row. Yeah.
Right.
Actually, I wonder if it was 4. I may have had 4. I can't remember. But there was one more that was canceled. And it was really just, we spent a good week or 2 of just kind of hunkering down and, you know, being with our family. Everything kind of went away. It was a real big kind of reset time about what's going to happen. Where is this going? And so all work went away.
Right.
I actually wrote a lot. So I continued writing.
That's good.
Yeah, it was very nice. And then kind of at that 2.5 week mark, it was like, you know, we're filmmakers. We like to tell stories. And that's when I put that distant, you know, yet close together.
Yeah.
And that was stock footage, other footage, and then about half was footage that I had shot. And that was really at the height of, you know, everything. It just seemed like people needed, I don't know, or it just was maybe cathartic for me, you know, to put together something that felt, you know, that it captured a period and that brought a little bit of joy.
It's very emotional.
Yeah, it's very emotional, and it's a moving piece. We're going to put a link to it in our show notes. So you're repped by Spears and Arrows here in the States, right?
Correct.
Now, was that just something that came naturally, something you wanted to make and you created? Was it intended to show to agencies and to demonstrate how you can create work during the quarantine?
No, it was not intended to do anything except be more probably cathartic to me. You know, there's no place that I had for it to live. There was no place that I was not trying to get work off it. I was not trying for it to do anything. It was just simply, you know, maybe my way of dealing with what was happening at the moment. That's what we do. We make things to, I don't know, because we want
make
to.
Things,
Right. You can feel your heart in it. And I think that that's what, emotionally and just creatively you turned to make this to show how you were feeling.
Yeah, and everybody in it, especially in the second half, is my kids and my family. And, we're all chatting on Zoom. My son does Zoom guitar. That was my son's preschool class on Zoom. And so, and then those are my parent-in-laws. The joy that was captured, it was not fake. I mean, it was all very real, and they were very fun. We just happened to be recording the screen while doing it.
Right. Since then, are you in any talks about any sort of remote kind of directing projects or anything to that nature?
Probably going to get in trouble. I shot yesterday and the day before.
Really?
What?
Yeah,
I'm kidding.
Yeah, what? Telling everyone. We then, after I did that, it was kind of like, okay, just kind of getting back on your feet and what can we do? What do we want to do? What's safe? What's, what is absolutely no-go? And we had started to get a few projects after that. This was maybe the beginning of, or mid-March, mid to late March would be my guess. We started to get a few very, very small things in terms that were from agencies. And it was like, well, somebody's doing something. A lot of them kind of came and went. They were like, yeah, we're not ready yet. And then I had wanted to do a mini documentary just about, specifically I titled it The Taste of Tomorrow, and it was about hope and good food. And it was told about a baker and a farmer and just kind of bare fundamentals about and it doesn't really focus on COVID. It's more just about our future and the hope and returning back to the basics and sustainability and living as a community versus being heavily reliant on other countries. A lot of the topics that kind of also about growth as people picking yourself back up. So kind of a lot of the themes that I think America's going through right now as a society, but really told through one farmer and one baker, and and we shot that. It was two of us shot it with our one subject, and we were out in the middle of a farm and we were practicing social distancing. And we did that yesterday and the day before. Shot with a red. We had Cook lenses, so we shot it professionally. It looks fantastic.
But it looks really good compared to the Zoom videos we've been seeing.
But that's really interesting though, because a theme that we've talked about a lot here on the show is that our worlds have gotten really small really quickly, right? Physically, we're confined to our living rooms. But also, we're looking at where our food comes from and, our local restaurants and local businesses. And now we're listening again to our governors and mayors. And so, like you're saying, focusing on sustainability and relying less on other nations and focusing on providing for ourselves on a local level is an important theme, I think, that hopefully we learn from this whole crazy mess that we're in.
Yeah, and that's not to say the world community is a bad thing.
No,
it's just,
not at all.
No, not at all.
But I think that we start with our smallest community, our families, and growing out and not forgetting that the closer we are to that really small community, just being our family, then stepping out in our neighbors, and really remembering that we're here for each other, and that at specifically a time like this. And so that's why I focused on those two things. Plus, I love to cook. I love to bake. And, I love to tell stories. And so I kind of was like, cool.
Nice.
Sorry. Every time somebody says bake, I think of people trying to pass me their starter. It's like, I'm good.
Okay.
I'm never going to do that.
I was into baking long before it was popular.
No, I know. But it seems to be what excites me about what you just did. There's definitely the desire to help each other. And, the information we get is so fast moving right now, and it changes daily, because we still don't really know as much as we'd like to about this virus. We just don't know as much as we'd like to. But my personal desire to see the change in the ads because all the brands came out, were for you. Got every email from every corporation I may have ever spoken to in my life telling me that they're here for me, right? And then, the progression of well, it's true. And then the progression of what we're seeing now, and then going into, this feels like the next thing that I want to see is real stories of real people and how they're handling it, but also what they're going to be doing moving forward. Because I know we need to change, but gives me hope.
Yeah, moving forward is huge.
Maybe loaded, but how do you think this experience is going to change you as an artist or affect your creative vision, or has it, or will it just enhance you?
I mean, your work is already so much about connectivity and the human experience. Your reel is gorgeous. So to Christian's point, is this going to deepen that kind of connectivity or change your lens in some kind of way?
I think there's two different things. You have one, the logistics of moving forward and how do you start shooting again? That's kind of one. And then you have the content and the messaging of like moving forward. I have always been drawn to subject matter about connectivity, our, just kind of the human condition, our relationships with each other. Always from the very beginning. That's why we tell stories, whether it's, a feature, TV, commercial, they all have that.
Right.
Moving forward logistically,
that was our next question too, by the way. We're all on the same page here. Go on.
Yeah, because they're kind of linked. And I'll tell you something we did yesterday. Okay. So we have started to see more and more boards that they're trying to figure out how to shoot. And we're trying to figure out how to shoot. And, like I said, I just did a shoot that was two of us. We all maintained social distancing, but we picked the right subject matter. So we've started to see more. We've gotten boards that we have submitted to from major agencies. And yesterday we had a call with certain people from an agency that represents McDonald's, and I've shot about maybe 20 McDonald's commercials. And they're specifically really, really needing and wanting content. They want to basically continue messaging, and they want to keep people working. They want to, they want to keep going, but they want to do it safely and smart. And, so the agency that I was speaking to, they were wondering, what can we do? How can we do this? What is our messaging? And we largely talked about how I had expressed that I think that the themes, and they agreed, we don't want to highlight the virus or COVID. We want to focus on timeless themes of hope, of growth, of family and connectivity and those things. And so I think moving forward, the only thing that I would want to do is I think that, we have a very strong opportunity to bring hope and to just kind of remind ourselves that everything will be okay, that we will move forward, we will pick ourselves up, and that we just need to be there for each other during this time and pull together and remember that there is light at the end of the tunnel, and there will be a time that we will all be able to be together again. And I think those are more of the themes kind of like going forward. And with the McDonald's thing, we specifically spoke about, we didn't want to focus, they didn't want to focus on people and PPE equipment. They wanted to specifically focus more just on the timeless underlying themes moving forward.
Nice. That's good to hear. We're always talking about that. We're starting to get calls from work, and our trepidation as producers is like, what are the expectations of the brands and the agencies? And hopefully they align with, what we want to be putting out there and what we want to be working on. So that's good to hear coming from a big client like that's their concern and what the image they want to put out as well.
I think that it's too up to us to be the guide for that, explaining what we're willing to do or not do. I absolutely know that there's a million of us out there. You can always find somebody willing to do a project that the client suggests. But that said, I think it's about our leadership and our expertise in the industry and what we feel comfortable with providing.
Absolutely. It is more than ever team. And we spoke about that. They are now talking about they'll bring us the concepts first to make sure we can achieve them safely before they even present them to the client. So there's kind of more steps that we really work closer as a team because they want to know what we can and cannot achieve at this point. And because we have this past, and when you have kind of a pass that they trust us, that we will deliver what we say we can, that then they will trust. And when we say we cannot do this or this is not safe,
they trust. Mm-hmm.
And we'll also maintain a level of quality that way that, yes, you can find the person that will run out and break rules and stuff like that. But, nobody wants to break rules.
Yeah.
Nobody right now, hopefully.
Speaking of that, we've been running scenarios for weeks now. I'm sure you have too, about how we're going to continue to work coming out of this and what all the different phases of work's going to look like. What we've been asking people is, we haven't worked together, so I don't know your crew, if you've got like a crew that you rely on or if you change it up depending on the project, but what do you feel like you would need to see for you, your crew, your talent in terms of safety or best practices when we come back to, say, a shoot with 50, 60, 70, 80 people? Does that scare you right now, or you think we're ready to get back to that point, or what would you need to see happen until then?
No, that's a complex question.
We ask the hard questions here on Producers Happy Hour.
Riveting.
I think as of April 23rd, which is today, I don't think that shooting with 60 people is in any sort of future that I am aware of, or at least in the near future. I'm sure that it will return. I don't know any sort of timeline or the logistics of what will be needed. Shooting is such a complex thing to begin with, especially when you get into union shooting and you have just the various unions that protect us. I'm part of the DGA, which they want to see us work as well. They are here for us, but they're also here to protect us. And so there's going to be a lot of, I think, collective figuring out how and what is safe. I think that there will be a lot of changing. You will not just see a light switch flick and you will go from not shooting to 60 people. I think it'll be like what we did, where it's just me and one other person. And then it'll be maybe me and 3 other people or 4 other people. And what can we achieve and how can we tell stories safely? And then I think it will grow. And that's my feeling. As for when it returns to the 60 people, like what will be necessary to make it safe, other than a vaccine for this particular virus, I don't know. I'm sure there will be waivers. I know insurance will be a massive issue. No question. Because specifically, if you have a star talent who goes down, that takes everything down. But we just don't want to put people in unsafe situations. We've been shooting for a very long time. I expect to shoot for the rest of my life. And, the number one thing before this was safety. Always safety. We never put our crews in dangerous situations because it's one thing. I'm not going to produce and make one project. I'm going to produce and make countless. And if one project brings me down, then all of the ones following don't get to be shot. And so for me, never is a moment or something worth putting anybody in danger.
May I just say that that's so refreshing to hear from a director?
It really,
because you are team leader. This often comes from the top. Attitudes come from the top.
Absolutely. Well, I work a lot with kids. I've worked around the world, and the thing is you just don't push. You push and then you listen and you have to stop. It is on you. I think people get blinded by this one moment and they don't understand that, hey, there might be 100 more commercials after this. Do you want to, or 100 more projects? Do you want to ruin all those projects for this moment? Like, is this really worth that?
Yeah.
Right. Perspective.
Absolutely.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, so do you have any words of advice for other creative people or production community right now? We're all figuring it out at this point.
I think that my only advice, I'm not really one to give advice, but I know for me, I think that we are all collectively trying to figure out what this is, what life is, actually the farmer said it really well that I interviewed. We've lost our rhythm. And I think That's what he said. He said, I said, what's going on right now? I know.
May I ask what kind of farming? Is it too much to ask what kind of farming it was?
Absolutely. He's a farmer based in Lompoc, California, just north of Santa Barbara. Yep. He has a sustainable organic farm that sells to like Whole Foods and Erewhon, and they do no pesticides. Like it's like he was telling me rosemary oil, stuff like that. They have 220 acres, so they're not huge. They sell largely vegetables. They're not a tree farm, so it's not.
Right.
It's not.
It's dirt. Right.
It's dirt.
It's a dirt farm.
Exactly.
I grew up on a dirt farm. I know.
They grew up on a dirt farm.
I did.
It was very interesting, definitely, and that's why when I set out to kind of start telling stories in this environment, like where do you go? What do you tell? How does it look? And that's why it kind of felt right to me. It was basic. It was about community. It's about without needing to go shoot a community.
Yeah.
Plus, I love food.
Yes, I know. And it makes you appreciate it even more now because it's not as readily available as it used to be.
Yeah. And I think now we're starting to see in headlines, like following this virus, we're having food supply issues, food problems, what's happening to our food more than ever. We're reliant on food, and all of a sudden it's not available when we want, where we want, how we want.
I saw some or listened to some podcast talking about, Americans aren't used to going into the store, seeing the brand that they like, buying it and just taking it home. And, now you go in and it's such a silly American problem. It's like, oh my God, my one brand of ground beef isn't available. What do I do? And then it starts to really wake you up to the process, the food supply, the people behind it, how it works. And all of it shifted so quickly in a matter of a couple weeks, from the people that sell sliced tomatoes that go to fast food restaurants now have nowhere to send them. Everything shifted, and it really makes you very aware of where your food comes from.
Yeah. But I think that along with that, it's the, sure, we've lost our rhythm, like he said, but it's getting back to the basics.
Exactly.
And at the very core of me, I believe storytelling is a basic element that we've had since we had farming begin. And I think it's equally as important to tell those stories. And look, if it's a studio paying for the story, great. If it's a brand paying for the story, great. Like I view that it's the same.
It's become painfully obvious, and this may be getting slightly political, but it's become painfully obvious that we cannot rely on government to solely help everybody. I mean, it's painfully, right? We've noticed that there are brands out there that are stepping up to pick up the slack. If the brand pays for it to get the message out, totally fine. I mean, I know that there's corporate backlash a lot, but I think that we're going to have to somehow, that's where the money is. We have to embrace some of it, the ones who are doing good.
Absolutely.
Dawn, we want to thank you so much for spending some time with us and chatting today.
I know.
Really appreciate it. Your work is really touching, and I recommend everyone to go check it out. We'll put a link to your reel in the show notes. But before you go, we would love to ask you if there's one thing that you miss or that you're looking forward to once we're able to kind of be around each other again and be out in the world. What is that thing? And it could be as simple as your favorite drink at a bar or world peace. What are you looking forward to once we're kind of back in each other's presence?
Oh man,
it's a great question.
Looking forward to?
Yeah.
I don't know. People.
Oh yeah.
Friends, family. That's really it. That's the only thing that we feel that we're missing right now. Yeah. We walk in our neighborhood, so we're outside. We're okay with that. It's just the inability to give, my mom a hug or the inability to see my wife's parents. It's, I think that more than anything is really just what it is. And my children long to be with friends, and I long to be with my friends. And there's just a massive disconnect because we as people are social. And when we are not allowed to, or should not, for safety reasons, interact with each other, I think it takes out a piece of who we are. And so I love going to restaurants, and I love, going to a bar and getting a drink, but I love going to Disneyland. I love going camping. Deep down, those are the only things, is just simply being able to invite, we see my parents and her parents every week, and to not be able to see them for months is very weird. For our cousins to not be able to come over is or they come over, but they stay in the car, and the kids are confused. And,
it's hard to explain.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, it's confusing to me.
Yeah.
And I'm kind of smart.
Yeah. So people.
That's lovely.
Good answer. Yes. Not that there was a right or wrong, but I like that one.
There is no wrong answer.
Yeah.
Dawn, thank you so much for spending some time with us and chatting. I love doing these interviews.
I love doing these interviews. I know what I need right now is hope. We can be so clinical as producers, like there's a formula we use. Every fucking job needs a camera and some crew members and some talent and a location. And it's a definite formula. But in the end, I think it is hope for humanity. And the big pause, if please don't let it be for nothing.
Oh, God.
I know. So, thanks, Dawn, for allowing me to know that hope in storytelling is hopefully what we're going to get a taste of next, because I need it.
We all do. All right. I think that I don't know what else to say.
For this few moments. I mean, he said it all. So, the show was edited and co-produced by Rob Bloomkey.
Artwork and logo design by Christopher Daniels.
And our unused but amazing music was composed by Kyle Puccia.
Thanks, everybody, for listening. We may have lost our rhythm, but it's coming back. We'll be back tomorrow. And until then, stay safe, stay connected, stay active, and please stay home.
And I'm going to start with today to clean your damn phone.
Clean your phone.
It's disgusting. I'm looking at mine. It's gross. I'm sure yours is the same way. Wash your hands. Don't touch your face. And if you leave the house, it's so important. Listen, if you can't afford a mask, let me know. I will mail you some. All right? Wear a mask.
Yes. And be sure to send us your voice recordings or your emails. Share your story. We're learning over these past 6 weeks that stories are so important. And that's what's going to get us through this. So email your stories to us at producershappyhour@gmail.com.
And Lawrence, if these lovely people out here want to get a hold of you, how can they reach you?
They have 2 ways. LawrenceTLewis.com or for voiceover work, voiceoflawrence.com. And Christian, how can they get a hold of you?
Well, the weight of needing to update my website is so heavy. You can go, but just know that I'll be embarrassed. It's sisterchristianproduces.com.
All right.
Thank you. Until tomorrow.
Thanks to Broida, and thank you all for listening. Bye.